Welcome to Corocozuna Productions, and this is basic refereeing and Ajime, let's get one thing out of the way. Being a referee in anything is difficult. There's a lot of rules that we need to know very well, and high stakes decisions need to be made very quickly. Therefore, it needs to be taken with the utmost seriousness. Just like in Kendo training, a solid foundation is important. Knowing the terms and flag positions is a good start, and that is where we will begin. In this guide, we will also discuss what constitutes the criteria for awarding a point. I hope that this will make a good starting point for your evolution as a Kendo referee. Chakso. Most of the time you will be refereeing in your gi and hakama. No watches or warm-up jackets allowed. The official suit is white dress shirt, red tie, navy jacket, gray pants, navy socks. Just like gi and hakama, dressed professionally and presentably. Kamae. Kamae doesn't just mean your fighting stance. The referee has a kamae too. Straight posture, hold the flags properly and correctly positioned, stand with your heels together. How you present yourself is how you'll be perceived and how credible you will be.
When refereeing in Kendo, as you all know, there's a very specific attire. Blue jacket, red tie, white shirt, and the white shirt can't have any patterns or designs on it. Gray pants, dark socks. Usually they say navy, but I've gotten away with black a lot of times. In Kendo, there's kamae, but when you referee, there's also a kamae. First, your heels must be touching, so you don't want to be standing like this, you don't want to be standing like this. Heels touching, feet slightly apart. Second, the flags. When you hold the flag goes inside of your hand, doesn't overlap your hand. Hold, index finger used to support, same for both sides. But when you hold the flags, you don't want to hold them like this or like this. You want to hold them tight to your body. In fact, one good piece of advice I've received in the past was you almost want to act like you're staking them into the ground, nice and tight to your body. Feet position, and when you move accordingly. Never just move without leaving your proper stance.
Judges position in an isosceles triangle and must maintain line of sight so they can see in front of the competitors. Head judge is the Shushin, secondary judges are Fukushin. Head judge covers half the court, as indicated by the blue arrows. Secondary judges cover quarters, green and yellow arrows. Commands, always loud. What good are you if the players can't hear you? Always confident. To start a match or to start encho, have your flags in the lowered position, relaxed. The commands are spoken mainly when you are the head referee or shushin. To start a match, hajime! To start encho, hajime!
Hajime! Encho! Hajime!
Yame! This is to stop a match for any reason other than a point is scored. Clearly hold the flag straight above and yell, Yame! Again, it is important to be seen and heard by the competitors. If they don't hear you the first time, you can keep saying it.
Yame!
When a point is scored, raise the flag confidently and quickly. If waved off, lower quickly. Call out the point immediately. Note, Ipponari is for when there are two hansoku or fouls and a point is awarded. So it's only going to be menari, koteari, doari, tsukiari, or ipponari.
Hands when calling a point. If you see a man being scored, obviously it has to be you and one other judge scoring them, and you're the shushin. Raise the flag. You do not call yame. The command to stop the fight is menari if it's a men. If it's a kote, say white scores a kote. Koteari! You don't have to say yame. That is the command to stop fighting. If it's a do for red, doari! And if it's tsuki for white, tsukiari! And then sometimes, just when there's two penalties, it's not a stop command, it's more of a Ipponari. And that's all you're going to have to know how to do. But make sure it's held up high, not straight up, not to the side, not that weird. I see this a lot. This is really frowned upon. I don't know why people do that. You ought to be nice and high and clear on what you're calling.
One flag goes up, but you disagree. You didn't see it as a point. Wave flags in front 3 times or until the referee who raised the flag lowers their flag. Don't be shy. Wave them with vigor. You want them to see you. One flag goes up, but you do not see anything or have no idea why. Hold flags in front with red over white. Try to avoid this as you should be aware of why a flag was raised. Note, if 2 referees do this, the point is valid. A majority is not needed at that point.
So if you disagree, if you see a flag being raised and you disagree with the call, make sure you're very clear that I see a lot of just this. Make sure you're very clear so your other 2 peers really see that, nope, I don't agree with the point. And this one is rarely used. You don't want to use it too much. That you simply did not see the point. You see a flag being raised, but you're like, what are they raising it for? You really should have an idea of what they're raising it for. So your 2 calls really should be, I agree. If a red flag goes up and you saw the point, yep. It's more than just I agree. It's more than, yep, I saw that point. I award it as well. Or, no, I saw what you're calling, but I disagree. Make that clear, make that immediate. So again, clearly wave off the point, or I strongly discourage.
Resuming or concluding a match after the first point, after the tying point, after the decisive point, or when time expires with one player in the lead. Issue one of the 3 commands on the left while lowering the flag. In some cases, there might be hante or referee's decision. After calling hante, finish with shobari once the majority is determined. So it's nihome after the first point, 0-1 or 1-0, shob when tied 1-1, or shobari after decisive point or when time expires and the match ends with a winner.
When a point is scored, for example, red, meari, keep the flag up to indicate that a point was scored. Both players return to the middle, and at that point, red is up 1. So the command to restart the match is nihome. Nihome means the second point of the best of 3 match. So it's men, kote, doari, whatever the point was, and then nihome. So let's say red scores another point. Meari. Red then, at that point, wins. So at that point, you would say, meari, return to the middle, shobari. However, if red scores and then match goes along, during nihome, white scores. Now we have a tied situation. Return to the middle, when it's all set, keep the flag up. The call is going to be shob. Shob means, okay, it's 1-1. It's the 3rd point. Shob literally in Japanese means win-loss. This is the point that's going to determine the win-loss. So the commands again are, after the first point, nihome. After a tie situation, shob. And then whenever one person wins, whether it's time has expired, or if a second point was scored, or the shobu point is scored, whoever scored it, let's say red scored the 3rd point, then it's shobari, time expired 1-0, shobari, or if it's a 2-1 situation, shobari. Those are all the same.
It's a tie. In round-robin pools, or more commonly in team matches, the festivities can end in a tie, 0-0 or 1-1. Hold the flags above you, cross with red in front, and say hikiwake, lower to conclude the match.
In individual matches, there has to be a winner, especially in a bracket. If it's an individual round robin or team match, matches can sometimes end in a tie or a draw, 0-0, 1-1 draw. When that happens and time expires, you have to call a tie. How do you do that? You cross your flags in front of you and yell the word for tie or a draw, Hikiwake! And at that point, both players go back into Sonkyo, the match is over, and the record shows that it was a tie. So again, that situation only arises in team matches or in round robin situations. So again, get the players back to the center. Hikiwake!
Hansoku. Penalties can range from stepping out of bounds, dropping shinai, taking an unapproved timeout, or more blatant actions. Here are the commands for the first and second infractions. When you see an infraction, raise both hands, call yame, raise the flag as shown in the color of the offender. Once they get back to their lines, point at them and say Hansoku ikkai. Then once that has been declared, hajime. If red commits a second foul, yame, back to the line, Hansoku nikai, raise the white flag, ippon ari.
So the scope of this video isn't about the details, so we won't go into hansoku or penalties too deeply, but I'm here mainly to show you how to call a penalty. So a penalty or an infraction is committed. So in this example, you see it. First thing you have to do is stop the match, which is, as we showed earlier, yame. And then whoever committed the infraction, you signal by showing who did it. So if red committed the infraction, so it has to be very different from, you don't want to do this because they're going to think, oh, I scored a point, when actually, no, they committed a foul. So you go like this, bring them back to the middle, and from here, you have to inform them that they have just committed a penalty or an infraction. Take both flags properly into the other hand. You give them the command, Hansoku ikkai, meaning penalty 1. Hajime! And they start again. Match goes on. Oh, red has committed another penalty. Uh-oh. So again, yame! You'll indicate that they have committed a penalty. Bring it back to the center. This time it's going to be Hansoku nikai, meaning you got 2. 2 Hansoku, unfortunately for red, means they have just lost a point. 2 Hansoku is 1 point. So Hansoku nikai, ippon ari. Then, if that was the first point, just like in the previous, you go nihonme or shobu, whatever situation it may be. But it's basically white has now received a point. So when it's 2 penalties, some rare occasions, a little more details, is sometimes they're pushing and shoving. They both will receive a penalty. Very rare, but that becomes yame, and then you both get a penalty. Doesn't happen very often, but it's good to know when it does. And then you have to do Hansoku ikkai, and then Hansoku ikkai, assuming they both didn't have a penalty at that point. Also, a question I get asked a lot when you indicate, I'm at the point of view of the shushin, but when you are the fukushin also has to indicate, yes, it's a penalty. When we get to the middle, when I do the Hansoku ikkai, that's when you can just lower your flag. You don't have to keep it up until I say nihonme or whatever the case may be. So as soon as I say, as the shushin, Hansoku ikkai, as a fukushin, you can just go, or whichever it was.
Sometimes both parties commit fouls. These do not offset. However, if both parties already have a penalty against them and the score is tied, they do offset. Match cannot end in this manner. Only in rare occasions would both parties be kicked out, but this is more of a disqualification scenario. Sometimes a foul can be so severe that a point can be taken away. The most common case of this is a celebration, as you're not supposed to celebrate when scoring in Kendo. When that happens, the flags are waved in the same way as a disagreed point, the command of Torikeshi.
On very, very rare occasions, and most of you watching this knows this happens. Red scores a point. However, red, following the point, commits an infraction. Usually, that infraction is they like celebrate, or they do something, or they taunt their opponent. We've seen this. What happens then is you bring them to the middle rather than saying menari nihonme or menari shobu. It's going to become, torikeshi. Torikeshi means, well, you did a bad thing after you scored, so we are going to take the point away. Usually, the shushin will not do this without consulting the other two, or sometimes even the court judge. But again, the scope of this is to show you what the commands and the flag actions are. In this case, it would be, torikeshi. But we'll go on to show you how to call the meeting after this.
Gogi. Referees will have to meet in the middle of the court to discuss confusion or disagreement. During this time, competitors must put away shinai, back up, and stay on the court in sonkyo or seiza, and wait. Any of the three judges can call for this. Beware, some referees overuse this and will kill the flow of a match. Also, the meetings need to be brief.
So I did mention previously that there are certain things you cannot do without consulting the other two referees. Mainly, this situation is invoked by the shushin. Fukushin can do it if they feel strongly enough, but to have a meeting, you call the yame, obviously the two players are settled, you call gogi. This means we need to assemble in the middle and discuss things. So the players will retreat to the extremities of the court. The three judges will meet in the middle and discuss whatever it was. So like in the previous situation I described, the torikeshi, I would be like, call the point, see this infraction being committed, get to the middle. Instead of calling the point, I'd be gogi, go to the middle, discuss with the referee, say, yeah, I saw, he celebrated or he taunted his opponent. We really need to take that point away. We come back to the middle and render the decision. So gogi is for calling a meeting with your, and if you are the fukushin, you're allowed to call them, but it has to be, something you really saw that you've noticed that the other two have missed.
Wakare. If overly long tsubaziriai for the sake of time wasting takes place, the shushin will call a wakare. Mind you, this has changed a little bit since the COVID rules have been introduced. This presentation is called basic refereeing, and that may have to be a different presentation. This is a bit different as yame is not called, and the competitors must break where they are and not return to the starting lines. Match restarts with a hajime command as the judge brings his flags back down. This one is tricky as there is no clear rule and is very subjective call that is often underused or overused.
Concept has become a little bit tricky because in the past, before COVID, if two players stuck to each other for too long, we wouldn't reset them to the middle. The referee or the shushin had the right to go wakare and break them on the spot, and then hajime. But now with the modified rules due to COVID, that does not seem to be something that is often used. The players are expected to break within 3 seconds to 5 seconds max. And they are slowly becoming more accustomed to doing that. So the wakare situation doesn't exist. And when they don't break, referees have been instructed to actually stop the match and inform the players that you need to create a break within 3 to 5 seconds, and that wakare will not be used. However, I'm going to include that in this video to make sure that you're aware that this still has not been abolished as a rule, but with the COVID-centric rules, it's more of the players need to be separating in 3 to 5 seconds.
Calling a valid point, yuko datotsu. This is very difficult. Strikes must be accurate, struck with the datotsubu, also with proper hasuji or blade direction, can't slap with the side of the shinai. Must have strong spirit and kiai. Spirit and kiai must display confidence and intent. Good posture must be maintained throughout and finished with a strong follow-through in zanshin. Kiken tai ichi. Spirit, sword, and body come together as one, where all the elements present. When being a referee, your senses are very important. See the strike. Watch and get into position to see. Your eyes do not trick you. Validate the shinai hitting the target. Hear the strike. You practice at the dojo. What does a good strike sound like? Listen for it. Did it clack on the tsuba? Was it blocked? Did it hit mengane? Feel and anticipate. You do this when you're practicing kendo, right? Reacting in kendo is bad. So too is it in refereeing. Focus and awareness must be at that level. A referee shall be aware. Safety is key. A big responsibility of the referee is to keep the players safe. This includes the ability to observe everything from faulty equipment to a wet spot on the floor. Always pay attention. Make a judgment. Decide if a strike is valid or not. This is a big responsibility as this decides who is the victor. This must be done with a clear mind and no prejudice. Judgments must be made based on what is seen and not what is expected. Rules must be upheld. That is why you have to know them very well, if not inside out. That's why you're here. You have to be focused. Things happen quickly as kendo is very fast. You must be ready to make decisions quickly and decisively, to be as prepared as the players are. Mindset. Avoid disrupting the flow of a match unless necessary. Even when not on the court, set an example with your manner and demeanor, not only to be fair, but act impartially. Never judge based on techniques you can do or that you favor. A valid strike is a valid strike. Don't compensate for a mistake that you made earlier in a match. Never lower the standard for a strike. Do not just go with the flow of the other referees. Don't raise a flag just because somebody else did or did not.